All right, here we go. Monday, late night happy hour. Cofield and Company is back. Crazy weekend. Adam Hill looks depressed already. Is he disappointed with our guest, or is he having neck issues?
No.
What's going on?
No, people are just very dumb on Twitter. People are dumb in general.
Why don't you turn off the Twitter machine for like a few hours a day to like ensure your sanity? I don't understand why you're fighting all the time.
Because I enjoy it, but then like you try to make a point and you think you're being very clever, and then people are just so dumb that they don't get it, and then it gets so frustrating. Like I'm arguing about, why we need to be cautious and take precautions for athletes, because people are like, athletes don't die from COVID. Okay, we know. It's their families that we're worried about. It's community spread that we're worried about. It's not the actual athletes in most cases. And what I said was, can you please point me to a study on what the long-term effects 10, 20 years are down the road from somebody that gets COVID and how it affects their body? Because I can't find one. Like, I can't find that study. Obviously being sarcastic that we don't know yet. And the person's like, those studies aren't out. I'm like, no shit. Yes, that was my point. Thank you. But way to get it. He said, those are such a dumb argument. Like, yeah, okay, that's great. Sorry. That's why I'm frustrated.
Sam, how do you use Twitter? Just in general.
Not like Adam does, that's for sure. I use the mute button all the time. So if I don't agree with you or I don't like you, I still might follow you, but I hit that little 3-dot button and then hit mute. So I don't see a lot of shit on Twitter, and I prefer it that way. I used to be a lot worse. But I think about 3 or 4 years ago, I started to get, a lot more responses because I had more TV appearances, more radio appearances. And if I replied to everybody, I'd probably go insane. So I'm more likely to ignore you now than I was back then.
I've never blocked or muted one person.
Oh, I don't block. You mute though. It's like you put a silencer on the gun, and then they don't know they've been shot.
No, I don't do it. I feel like it's an open dialogue. It's an open forum, and as much. I mean, I get just so much hate and just inundated with nonsense, and I'm like, okay, fine, bring it on.
To be fair, though, you do argue with people that don't have an avatar. They have like 6 followers, and you just go in.
Sure. Yeah. Like I think a lot of people think like, well, I'm nobody. Nobody's going to argue with me. Like, no, if you're a fucking idiot, I'm going to tell you you're a fucking idiot. I don't care.
You also could be arguing with bots.
Sure. But I also don't look at it. I don't always look at it as you're arguing with a person. Like you're using them to show how dumb other people are that have that same opinion. So you're not just arguing with that one person.
All right. Hey, I was going to say, if you can keep your sanity, then that's good. But right now you look like you're ready to off yourself coming on. So whatever.
Well, when you really get somebody with something like that and then they don't get it, it's very frustrating. It really is.
Yeah. Illinois gambling is very frustrating. That was a terrible segue. But Sam is, by the way, to intro Sam. Sam is now based in the Midwest. He was with VSiN. He is a gambling expert. I do the intro and he disappears for a second. But he's a gambling expert. And now he's a good voice on this show when he can come on. And we appreciate him coming on at 12:30 his time. Now we get a little more of a view of the rest of the country and how crazy things can be, how much better things can be when it comes to sports books, because we're still very provincial here. We're very traditional. But Illinois looked like it was on its way to being, one of the big states, and a lot of cool things going on. And then what happened the last couple of days with registrations? What's happening?
Well, the governor continues to show his true colors, and you see that there are a lot of things behind the scenes in Illinois, and those are the responses that I always get. Well, what do you expect? It's Illinois. This is crazy because I was actually out of town over the weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was in Michigan City, Long Beach, Indiana, and I wasn't really on the grid, wasn't paying attention. Turns out there was a meeting on Thursday, and the details didn't get landed until Sunday. The governor took away the mobile registration, which for the last about 55, 56 days in Illinois was allowing you to lay anywhere in Illinois on your couch and go to betrivers.com and remotely register and remotely fund your account. Remember, also, at the same time, this is this is like eating a blooming onion. There's so much shit going on in Illinois. But FanDuel and DraftKings were initially blocked out of the state. They were in the 18-month penalty box. So what happens, DraftKings aligns with a casino in East St. Louis, which, Cofield, I don't know if you know the area that well. It's about 4.5 hours away from Chicagoland. So DraftKings says, all right, we're going to partner with a casino in East St. Louis so you can sign up for our app via the remote registration. So long story short, on Sunday, the governor comes out and essentially says, all right, we're going to bong in person, or we're going to bong the mobile registration and make you actually physically come to our location to sign up. So the rub is now that PointsBet and FanDuel and DraftKings, and there's one more company that's about to enter, Penn National, I think. They're all about to enter the market, but that in-person registration is going back into place. So you have to physically go back, which is sort of like rewinding the last 60 days. It's a clusterfuck, man. Like, it makes no sense. Also, it's a pandemic. We can't go to bars. We can't go to restaurants, but you got to go to a casino to sign up for your sports betting account.
Adam, nightmare?
Yeah, I mean, we see it's just amazing how it's so different in every state and how everything works out differently, and you just don't have any kind of set protocols for how things are going to be, which is good in some levels, that you're going to have different marketplaces and different opportunities at some point down the road. But in terms of setting it all up, it's crazy. Like I was in Indiana this year, and I thought their setup was pretty good. But then people were complaining that there was no mobile, and like you had to go into the casino and you had to go like to downtown Indianapolis, or there was like a couple other spots that it was available. And some places like Colorado seems like they're just all on board right away. Everywhere's different. It's crazy.
Well, you bring up Indiana too. 82 or 84% of the handle inside of the state of Indiana is DraftKings and FanDuel. So what Illinois wanted to do when this whole bill came through, they wanted to give the local guys and also the horse tracks and casinos, they wanted them to get like a first crack. They didn't want DraftKings and FanDuel to just take over, hijack the state, and take over. So that they were initially boxed out. But the problem is we had mobile registration, we had mobile funding. So literally 3 days ago, I could have pulled up an account, fired it up, started it, funded it, and bet. I can't do that 3 days later. That makes no sense.
How far are you from Indiana?
I can get to the Horseshoe in Hammond right across the border in about 20 minutes in a car.
Well, I mean, then that makes it even more important, doesn't it? So all your business could be leaking out to Indiana. Now you have to make your bets in Indiana, though, right? Even though you have it funded, you have to go across the border to make the bets. But that's not a big deal if you have to, I mean, it's not great. But if that's the more convenient option, then Illinois is going to get killed.
Well, they're not going to get killed. I think a lot of people, they're not going to want to drive to Indiana every time they want to bet. Let's not forget that. So, you might be able to make the occasional trip with your friends, and maybe, 3 or 4, you go down, make a trip on a Saturday or a Sunday, watch football all day, bet all day. But remember, everything is geometrically fenced. Sort of like when you try and make a bet on a Westgate app or on a Circa app and you're in Nevada and you cross into Utah, you can't make that bet anymore. So it'll be a pain in the ass for you to use your Indiana-provided sportsbook app, but you have to cross the border. I'm not going to want to go out of my way every day just to bet.
How many total locations around you in Illinois are there where it's brick and mortar and you could go in?
Well, they have 10 casinos right now, and the plan is to build more, including a Chicago-based casino. But in the Chicago metro area, you can bet on sports at, I think, 2 places right now. But that's, like I just said, you're going to have multiple new options in the next 2 to 3 weeks. FanDuel is going to come in eventually. DraftKings will be in. Points going to the door. I mentioned Penn National. That's the Barstool Sportsbook that's eventually going to come out. I think MGM might enter the space. So you're going to have the Wild West within the next month. Currently, though, Rivers has the head start, and they've been live since March 9th.
Wait, what did you say in the middle of that? So, who Sportsbook? Barstool?
Yeah, well, Penn National bought Barstool. And
right.
Penn National is eventually going to turn their brand into the Barstool Sportsbook. I'm surprised you haven't heard this yet.
No.
Well, they want to tap into that audience. I mean, you guys know, love or hate Barstool. I have a lot of friends who work for Barstool. There are a lot of issues with Barstool. I understand people have them, but they're trying to tap into that massive reach and that huge social footprint to try and turn those consumers into gamblers.
Yeah, I see the Barstool story came up, late June. Then there's something about a promo code on July 7th. How powerful do you think that brand is going to be around the country? Like, do legit gaming companies have to worry about Penn National as a legit player with the front of Barstool?
I'm not so sure. Their audience, I think the good thing about their audience is it recycles and it reciprocates every single year, because the way that I view Barstool is most of the time you really catch on to Barstool when you're a freshman in college. So every year around the country, you have all these campuses and all these kids are going to college to read Barstool. And from 18 to 22, you're reading Barstool religiously in college. Most people are. That audience usually lasts until probably, I would say, 30. So you're trying to stranglehold that age group from 18 to 30. And if you can catch them then, they may never leave.
I'm really fascinated by their entrance into the market in terms of, Penn National buying them and seeing how they market it and how they deal with some of the backlash as well, which could be, an even bigger story. Like once now that they're corporate, that being Barstool, they don't care about their corporate, partners, and they do things like right after that deal was announced, they named the podcast, their new podcast, what they named it. And that's what Barstool does. That's what they've always done. And, that's something that they've gotten known for. That's how they've made such a mark, by not caring about political correctness and not caring about the pushback and that sort of thing. But how does Penn National deal with being associated with them? And if they're rebranding, which is the plan, like, how do you deal with that when you're a gaming company and you're running these sports books that are Barstool sports books and Barstool digital betting, whatever they have, and people are coming at you like, why did this brand of yours just name a podcast the N-word? Like,
well, let me before Sam answers, are there enough people out there who are going to push back? Seriously?
Once it's a sports book brand, yes.
Well, where do we complain with other sportsbook brands? It goes into the ether. You think William Hill cares that they get dinged here locally or anyone ripping? I mean, if BetMGM was really worried about PR, then they wouldn't have pulled the move and went and challenged the Korean baseball thing.
But I sort of see.
But hold on. When Penn National goes into a new market, like whatever market, let's say California, when California eventually gets done with 2023, whatever, we're like, all right, we're open a Barstool Sportsbook here at the casino at whatever San Manuel, and that's Indians, it's different. Whatever. You're going into California and you go to Sacramento and you go to a meeting and you're like, we're putting a Barstool Sportsbook in a casino in Sacramento, and the government there says, wait, Barstool Sports isn't their podcast called the N-word? Like, what? You're putting that brand in our state? That's where you start to run into some problems, I think.
I think what you're also getting at, and I agree with this part of it too, MGM and William Hill, they don't have personalities at their company that have millions of social media followers, and they don't have people that are constantly, drawing up headlines and making, social media noise. So I think they're maybe more liable to find themselves in some trouble. I mean, like, how often do we see Jay Rude start a controversy at MGM? I mean, like, he never did anything. Everything was above board. But I think the personality part of it, Adam also alluded to this, the personality part also separates Barstool from the pack. So that loyalty that they have sort of, wedged into their audience, their hope is just to turn those people. And those people, I'll tell you what, I've been in their merchandise rooms in New York City. The merch flies off the shelf. I mean, people are buying merchandise. Say what you want about the podcasts and the videos and all that. Barstool is so lucky that they have such a loyal audience. They buy merchandise like it's going out of style, and they're hoping to create the dollars that they take in from merchandise into dollars that they can generate a profit from inside the sports book.
I thought it was a really fascinating decision that they made to go that direction too, because to me, what they did at first is, and we know some people for sure that they really try to make a run at like the best people in the industry, and they were like, we're going to be an actual sports book, we're just going to have the best people we possibly can and really make this like the star sports book attraction and everywhere we go. And I think they got turned down by a bunch of people, and we're like, all right, we'll go this way then.
You're saying they got turned down by a bunch of bookmakers?
Yeah.
Penn National did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that per se, but I like Johnny Avello, right? He's at the Win forever, and then DraftKings comes along and they want to add somebody who's got the acumen and the experience to deal with the actual, odds making and bookmaking. That was a slam dunk hire for them to get Johnny Avello. So I imagine if you're Penn National, you'd want somebody of that stature that's been moving and shaking in the Vegas market, because at the end of the day, Vegas might not be the only game in the country anymore, but it's the same, it's the same old thing. Vegas knows best.
Answer this one from Ray. Penn National runs horse tracks with outrageous takeouts. I'm sure sports will be the same. Is that even possible if you go into a state where there's 6 different providers? Can you be the provider that's like, hey, minus 120 lines and just outrageous cuts?
I'll let Sam answer this. You might even know better than me, but I would say, first of all, like that's the point that I'm making of you were trying to make a splash as a sports book. Instead, you're like, nah, we're Barstool. I think that they're banking on the marketing and the branding and the brand loyalty of Barstool, readers and devotees, just being like, I don't give a crap that I'm getting the world this future bet. I want to go to Barstool.
Wow.
I remember being at Bet Rivers the first day. So they opened up in March 9th was the date. That was the first day we could walk in and actually bet on sports. And I'm sure, Cofield, you saw some of this because I was tweeting to Storm out. Joe Ostrowski, my old chicken dinner partner, we were both there. He was doing a live show from there for the Score. And we looked up at the boards, and the first thing I noticed, this was mid-March, so it's, college basketball, euphoria. There were college basketball totals that night that were juiced minus 118, minus 114. It was minus 113 to lay 5 points, and then, on the other side, it's not minus 110, minus 110, it's minus 113 and like minus 108. They were getting really stingy with the juice. And now your casual bettor is not going to know any better. They don't know shit, right? And I think that's what a lot of these new marketing campaigns are going towards. They're not going to get the Cofields and the Adam Hills because you guys know better. You're not going to lay 116 to lay points in the basketball game. But if I'm only betting $20 and I'm like, I'm betting as it is, that's the education part that I think needs to be driven into these new clients, that you do have to shop around and you do have to understand the difference between minus 110 and minus 113, between minus 112 and minus 115. I remember Spanky and all those guys, they were going hard, like Captain Jack, they were going hard at Bet Rivers. And what do you know, within an hour, they had those minus 118s down to about minus 113. So they are paying attention to what people are saying. But yeah, the juice was really, really crazy that first couple hours when they launched.
I'm telling you, I sat in that sports book in downtown Indianapolis for like 6 hours on a college football Saturday. I was up there for the Raiders-Colts game, which, by the way, I think they could have put like minus 34 on the Colts and people still would have bet it. But I got the impression that if you were booking college football there, you could make the favorite minus 21.5 and the dog plus 6.5, and people would still make their bets. You could do whatever you want. People just wanted to bet. They thought they were.
Is your brother onto something here, Ryan Carl, that the issue could be with state licensing, not the individual gamblers? Gamblers don't care. In terms of policing the lines, does the state, once they give a license, does the state really try to step in and tell you what you can set your lines at?
No, the state will never tell you how to set your lines. Those are all ran through your operator. And it's funny because Bet Rivers is operated by Rush Street Gaming, but guess where Rush Street Gaming gets their lines from? From Canby. And Canby is a book company out of Sweden, I believe, or one of the Scandinavian countries. So those lines that are in Des Plaines, Illinois are not – there's not 6 guys cranking numbers out in the back of that book. They're getting it from software that gets ran through, Canby, which is a popular European provider in Sweden. So, yeah, gaming control is not going to sit there and tell you what to make your lines. Now, if there's an issue or there's past posting – or if there's bad lines, and by bad lines, I mean, like, it's minus 7 and plus 3, like Adam just brought that up. Like, they're not going to nickel and dime you on the juice. But as long as everything looks clear on the surface, they're going to stay out of your way.
Let's readdress what Ryan was trying to ask, because Brady steps up for him and says he was talking about Barstool getting a license. And Ryan Carl says, right.
Oh.
That's
your fault. You're the host, right?
I know. I can't understand. I'm talking and trying to put up the but it's good to have follow-ups. So, I don't even know how would I put it. Are they woke enough to be listening to complaints about however some, front, how they behave in the state of Illinois? Are they gonna get a blowback on Barstool being, misogynist and go, you're not getting a license until you clean up your content? Again, I think that's overstepping your bounds.
I don't think that's going to be the case. That's a very short and sweet answer. And I'm looking right now. I'm actually pulling up the Illinois Gaming Board website, and they're showing you all the licensees and which casinos have the licenses. So, for example, Casino Queen, that's DraftKings, and it tells you the company, and then it tells you the provider. So Casino Queen is DraftKings at Casino Queen. And then you go down to HC Aurora and HC Joliet. Those are Hollywood casinos. And it says right there, boom, Penn National. So those are the two locations, at least in Illinois, that Barstool is going to come and swoop into. They're going to go into Aurora, which is about an hour outside Chicago. It's about an hour west. And then Joliet, that's about 45 minutes southwest of Chicago. So they're just trying to get in. And that was the thing with the Chicago, the legislation. You wanted to be close to Chicago to get that metropolis and have people come close. Like if you're in East St. Louis, you're never going to get Chicago. That's why you want to be close to Chicago. And that's what Barstool is doing with this deal. They're going into Hollywood Casino just outside West and just outside of the Southwest.
And I think it's obviously different to rebrand a casino after you have a license than it is to go in as that operator. Like if they had to sit in front of a legislative hearing and you'd know that every single question on one side is going to be like, how do you defend this? How do you defend this? It's not going to be about their actual operating.
All right. Let's get a little early reaction to what's happened in baseball. It's like 3 or 4 games, and I'm not talking about COVID. I'm just talking about what we've seen on the field. Sam, I saw that you gave something called Plus Chirp, some over-under win totals a few days ago. Any thoughts coming out of the gates after like 3-4 games? You had Pitt. You had the Pirates over 24.5. Anything?
They actually they gave up, I think, 4 runs in the 9th and lost in 11 tonight. So, yeah, I'm not really happy at the moment. I'm glad you brought that up, Cofield. Appreciate that. But that was the team.
I think with coronavirus, with like the adjustments that people are going to have to make around baseball with pitching staffs, and it's such a compressed season. Like, I know it sounds stupid, but like every game does count. So like early on, through a week or two, and we're not even there yet, you may look at some of these win totals and you're like, Jesus Christ, this is a terrible start, or this is a great start.
Well, I'm looking at the Pirates, they're 1-3, but I could make the case if I looked at the record, they could be 3-1 if you actually see how some of these games played out. And the problem when you go over a team like Pittsburgh, when their win total opened 24.5, got bet up to 25.5 in a couple places, they're not talented enough to steal more games than they're going to give away. You know what I'm saying? Like, that they're probably going to lose more games than they win. They're going to beat themselves more than they're going to, be better than the opposition. So, yeah, losses like that early definitely suck. That was one of the 3 that I gave them. The Cubs under was the other one. I still think David Ross is over his skis as a manager, and I get, opposition on that all the time. Well, you're just a Cubs hater.
What does that mean? Like, what does that mean? What are you worried about where he's over his skis? What's he going to F up?
Well, today, they almost blew a game today. I don't know if you saw the Cubs were up. I believe they were up 7-0, and they almost lost that game because he started to get cute in the bullpen. Bullpen gave up 2 in the 7th, 2 in the 8th, 2 in the 9th, and almost lost in the 9th.
Again, I'm not rooting against anyone in particular. I'm certainly not rooting against this guy because I have him in fantasy. But Kimbrel going out and mop up and just getting destroyed, that is worrisome. But it's good for your bet. It's good for your bet. He didn't blow the game today, but he got lit up.
No hits though.
He only walked 4 guys tonight.
Yeah, 4 walks, no hits.
Yeah. Well, they said both starters didn't give up a hit. So that was like they were bookended because Lester went 5, gave up no hits, and Kimbrel went a third of an inning, 4 walks, no hits, 2 earned runs. I think that thing could go either way, honestly. I just think it was a little overinflated because the Cubs usually are. And then I'll tell you what, guys, I don't know how much you've seen of this Cleveland Indians rotation. Holy shit. They got some arms in that rotation. They have the best ERA in baseball right now. And I think because of the overreaction or the overreaction to what the Minnesota Twins did last year, they won over 100 games, and they just do mash the baseball. It's a good offense. Kenta Maeda is really good as their 3rd starter. So I think the Twins are a little overinflated. I don't like that number one way or the other. And we know the White Sox were the sexiest team of the offseason. Everybody bet the White Sox. So I thought that provided a little bit of value with the Indians. That win total was 32 or 32.5, I think. And I think Terry Francona continues to get, pushed under the rug as one of the best managers in the game. That team always pitches well. They field the baseball well. I think that Cleveland team, they could win the division in the AL Central.
Truth from Duluth says Twins will stomp Cleveland.
Yeah,
Truth.
No bias.
Duluth is in Minnesota.
Truth. What does that mean? Give us a number, and one of us may bet you. So give us a number gap between the Indians' final season total for wins and the Twins.
Yeah, I want to see this number because if it's bad, I'll illegally bet this guy right now on your show.
Stomp to me means they'll outpace them by at least 8 games.
No, there's
in a 60-game schedule.
No, they won't.
That's stomping.
I think in a 60-game schedule, 2 games is stomping them.
You say stomp and you fire up 3 games? Get out of here.
Okay, they do have the offense. They do have the offense to stomp anybody, and I'm a White Sox fan. We lost 14-2 on Sunday, and I say we because, yes, I am on the team. That's why I say we. Nelson Cruz is leading the league in home runs already. I mean, this team just mashes, and they added Josh Donaldson. They're going to stomp teams in games individually. They're going to win games 12-3 and 14-6, and they're going to score runs. But this division is going to be a lot tighter than people think.
Stomping rules on the late night happy hour. I think we're going with Ray. In a 60-game season, it's at least 5 games, and he laughs.
I will take, if you give me the Cleveland Indians +5 against the Twins for a season, as far as games back, I will max bet +5.
Max bet. max bet in the Cofield and Company sportsbook.
I'll take almost any team +5 against any team in a 60-game schedule.
You won't do the Orioles, not the Orioles against the Yankees.
Will you bet me right now on Giants against the Dodgers? I mean, they split. You have Giants, I have Dodgers. Dodgers -5. Let's go.
I said almost any team.
See what I mean? See what happens?
I thought he said every team. I mean,
no, I said I'll take almost any team.
It's always funny too. Did you see after Saturday all the bookmakers were crying poor? I saw our buddy Chris Andrews was like, "Oh, we're not going to make it." The favorites went 14-2, and then like Saturday night and Sunday morning, the dogs went nuts, including that. I think the Dodgers were -330 or something on Saturday when they lost.
It was more. The run line was like -190
to lay $1.50. That's fine. Yeah, but they didn't. You notice none of those bookmakers said jack Sunday and Saturday night. They didn't say a word.
Of course not. Ryan Carl Hill, do you want to bet? Can we come up with a bet? I saw your tweet the other day. He says $5 max here. You said that I think it was laying 2 against the Tigers all season will win you money. So they're 2-2 so far. Is there some kind of bet we can put together on that one, or was that an emotional reaction to the Tigers?
Were the two were blowouts though, right? I mean, tonight was. So I would assume
you'll be getting plus money on a lot of those bets.
Right.
So far they've lost 7-1 and 14-6, and then they won the 2 games in the middle.
And you would have got plus money. You would have got plus money on both those, so you're so far ahead if they're 2-2.
Well, yeah, and it doesn't matter how much you lose by. You could lose by 1,000,000 runs. You just lose that bet, and if it's a 1-unit bet, you're only losing 1 unit if you're getting. Because if you're laying 2 runs in a baseball game, I mean that's got to be what +15, +25 every game.
Yeah.
So you're gonna if you win 30 games by 2 runs or more, you're going to probably profit on that, I would guess. I haven't done the math, but I'm just doing it right now in my brain. Because you're not going to get penalized. You're not laying $3 to win 1 like you're laying Dodgers money line. You're laying 2 runs, and that's got to be a plus price.
All right, Adam. One of our favorite tweets of July was Sam's tweet about -1600. It was the Dodgers to make the playoffs at -1600. At the time, the field was, what was the total field instead of 16? What was baseball going with? 10? Okay. So Dodgers had to be in the top 5 in the National League to make the playoffs. Adam, can you explain what you read? Because Sam used this ESPN expert as the reference, and you thought, Adam, that a lot of people misunderstood what the guy was saying.
Yeah, I think this is a semantic. It's a semantic argument much more than it is a betting argument. Because on the betting side, Sam and everybody else that was agreeing with him are absolutely correct. Like that's a really stupid bet to make. It is. It's just it's for the most part. I mean, there are times when a -1600 could be a good value. If you tell me, will the sun come up tomorrow? I could lay -1 billion, and it's still a good bet.
Shut the fuck up. That would never -1600 would never be the line for the sun to come up tomorrow.
But I'm saying it's not true that -1600 is always bad value.
Correct. I was a little hyperbolic saying never to lay 1600, but I'm also, you got to remember this. I'm talking to the people that are reading ESPN that are not bettors, that don't know any better. And I think it's
you're
bad. I think it's bad to tell new bettors that it's a good bet to lay 1,600 to win 100.
He didn't. He didn't.
He pretty much did.
He wasn't asked what the best bet or what a good bet was. He was asked what the surest bet was.
It's the same thing. So you're doing the semantic.
I said right from the beginning, this is going to be a semantic argument. It is.
Well, you always play semantics, but you only play semantics in your favor.
No, I play semantics all the time with everything.
But I just said to your side of the semantic argument.
Of course, because I'm very careful about it, right? Because like just a minute ago when I said I'd lay it with almost any team, and then you threw it to me, I'm like, no. And you said you'd lay it with any team. I said no, almost any team. That's different.
You said I would lay minus 1,600 on the Sun to come up.
I would. I would. No. You wouldn't.
That's not a realistic example.
Okay, but you would lay 1,600 that the Sun is coming up tomorrow.
I wouldn't because it would never happen.
You would lay it though. Of course you would.
It would never happen.
He wasn't asked what the best bet. Now I agree with you in that you are speaking to many people who aren't bettors. We're just getting betting on a nationwide level, and I think there is some responsibility to actually be kind of like educator as a media person to be like, hey, like this is a bet that's out there. I don't necessarily know that I would lay it. It's probably kind of foolish for you to keep your money tied up at a minus 1,600. But if you're asked what the surest bet is, if somebody asks me what's the surest bet, I'm going to look at the board and find the biggest minus and probably say that one. That's the surest bet.
I think the issue is too, Cofield. I don't think the editor did these people any justice. I don't think that I think it was bad. That's a bad thing to publish. I don't think the editor did him any justice because I think if this guy was actually taking into account bankroll management and actual bet style, and he even this guy got dragged. I feel bad. My agent even said, well, you just ruined this guy's week. And I was like, well, look, I mean, don't put dumb shit on the internet. But, he even responded to the DMs. He's like, I wasn't even thinking about this from a betting standpoint. So I don't even think that they had the lines in front of them.
Exactly.
I think that bold print right there, Dodgers to make playoffs minus 1,600, I think that was added in post-production.
I think they asked him without knowing the numbers. They were like, what do you think is the most sure thing that's going to happen this season? And he said the Dodgers making the playoffs. And then they went and looked at the number and included it with his story. And he probably didn't even know what that means or what it is. Now, I would also come back and say, I have said before, if you're a media person in the sports world and you don't understand betting markets, you probably shouldn't have a job. Like you shouldn't be working in betting in sports anymore. You shouldn't be working in the sports media. You need to know those things. You need to understand them.
Are you going to break the tie, Cofield, or are you just going to sit there?
On what point? You guys are arguing over what the actual pick was or why you made the pick.
No, we're in unison on the origin of the editing process, but we disagree still on laying 1,600.
Do I ever think there's value in laying 1,600?
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, there is. If you price it out and something should really be minus 4,000 or minus 5,000, then yeah. I mean, did anyone post reset numbers on Dodgers to make the playoffs once they went to 8 teams in each league?
I saw minus 4,000, and then I think one book had minus 5,000.
I might do that.
Well, now that everybody makes the play, I mean, pretty much every team makes the playoffs. So
right.
I mean,
isn't that the whole point? Then even you're looking at it, you're like, minus 4,000. Actually, there might be a little value there. Now, do I have the bankroll to? Because essentially, you've got to make like 20 of these bets, and you can never lose 20 of them, right? Even if you lost 1 out of 20, you're still cooked.
Well, yeah. So, well, if you made 17 bets at minus 1,600 and lost one of them, you'd break even. Okay. And my thing is, look, I've seen Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson. We've seen Maryland, Baltimore County beat Virginia. You could be that guy that finally steps up and lays that big chalk, and you get screwed.
Right.
Sure. If you laid 1,600 on every number 1 seed over every 16 seed, you'd still be very profitable.
Over the course of the tournament, correct.
Sure.
But I'm saying timing is everything. And I think a lot of gamblers find that out the hard way. What if your first big money line favorite was Virginia and it just crippled your bankroll? I mean, I think it's bad advice for new gamblers. The funniest part of the whole engagement was that I had all these people that had, 300 followers, and they had the word sharp in all their handles. They're like, this guy's a square. He doesn't know shit. At me, you're like telling me like, oh, late 1,600, it's a great, okay, like relax, Mr. Tout Sharp Picks, etc. I don't,
because I mean, one of the issues that I have is like an automatic, and I'm not saying I'm saying in general in the betting world, like the automatic, if somebody says what's good value, it's always a plus, right? It's always somebody that's plus money. That's the value. But I will never back down from saying that the greatest bet of all time was like the best number was minus 450, even at minus 2200. Still the best bet of all time.
Sure. And Brady just brings it up. I think that was the easiest bet I ever made because when Mayweather fought McGregor, they opened up Mayweather. I think it was minus 2,800. Right?
I saw 24 when it opened. Yeah, so
I think globally it was 28. Whatever. Either way. And then it got all the way down to minus like 425 on Mayweather because everybody just bet McGregor. Now, I thought the number was minus 2,000 or 2,500. So when I'm sitting in the computer and looking, staring into my screen, I'm like, holy shit, is that minus 400? Yeah, hammered it because the number was should have been, $20 higher.
The right number was minus a billion.
I'll give you the greatest example of if anyone had said there was no value on this, I would have bet minus 3,000 and the number was minus 300. Remember a boxing match with Layla Ali and Christy Martin?
No.
Yeah, they actually fought. Layla Ali is 5'10", 168 pounds. Christy Martin is 5'3", 148. And I remember at the time when they were booking it, I was like, holy shit. Like this schlubby lady she can't box. Like this Layla Ali actually has a pedigree. She's an athlete and she fucking destroyed her. And she was minus 300 going into the fight. So every once in a while, and that's not, it's not minus 1,600. But my point is, like she should have been
a little different than
minus 30-1 favorite, not 3-1.
I get the plus EV, and I always understand that, but I still think at the end of the day, ESPN has a better duty to inform new bettors that, hey, you probably shouldn't lay minus 1,600 if you're a novice bettor. You probably shouldn't. The pros are going to do what they do no matter what. They don't care what I say. They don't care what anybody says. They're going to do their thing. But I wouldn't be telling a bunch of new bettors that, hey, it's a good idea to lay 1,600.
No. Adam, I think you in the past, you've explained it, and I just don't listen to you, but you've explained why you think there are some bettors who will constantly lay, the minus 4,000, the minus 5,000. Like how does that benefit them as a player? Does it benefit them with some kind of perks at the casino so they're willing to lose some? Like, what's the point on that?
Not even lose. I think some people are just getting comps. They're just getting comp points by laying these numbers and taking little small payouts, but getting, whatever perks they can. And I think sports books and casinos have kind of wised up a little bit on it. But I think that's what a lot of people are doing.
Here's the thing. Why would a casino wise up on it? Keep taking the action. Like Sam just said.
Sometimes they need to balance it out. Sometimes they need to balance it out. And they actually, I think one of the things that I think people might not even know about that are not really part of it is that casinos will actually invite certain players to come lay those numbers sometimes. Be like, hey, we need this. Like, why don't you come in here and make this bet? Like those things happen. Those negotiations happen between players and bettors. I just mean like some of the smaller guys that you're never going to see again. Like, let me lay $4,000 to win, 100 because I want to get free dinner tonight. Like, I think those things happen, which is insane.
So it's late where Sam is, so let's let you go in about 10 minutes. So let's cover two topics, right? One, I know you have a complaint that a lot of people here have complained about, and that is the uneven policy on closing different places and casinos versus local bars. And I saw you had a place somewhere down near Wrigley that just closed, like a legendary bar.
Guthrie's Tavern. Yeah, Guthrie's Tavern is going under. And I knew people that worked at Guthrie's Tavern. And I would say at this point in time, we're probably at about 30% of the bars that just aren't going to open back up. And in Chicago, you guys have been to Chicago. That's a lot of bars. So 30% of a big number is pretty sad. And people are managers and wait staff and hostesses and kitchen staff and all that. It sucks because these people have done this their whole lives. They've been industry people their whole lives and they're out of work. And a lot of them didn't go to college, don't have degrees. So it's an uphill battle for them. But I think honestly, that number is going to be a little low. I think by the end of this whole pandemic, whenever it ends, you're going to see that number, be closer to 40 or 50% of a lot of these Chicago bars that just are never going to reopen back up because they can't afford it. Steve, they're paying rent still. I mean, you haven't been able to go into these places since March, but you've been paying rent since March, and you have to pay staff, and your overhead is just like it's killing them.
It's a disaster, and it sucks here. I don't understand it at all. Let's close on this one. Let's close on this one. You texted me earlier saying that you're rewatching Boardwalk Empire. Is that an all-time great HBO show? We'll ask the audience too. What are the best HBO shows of all time? Because we all have different taste. Do you think Boardwalk Empire is in the top 5? Is it in your top 5?
I think it's number 6. It almost made the cut, but I do love season 2 because season 2 is when they show the ascension of Al Capone and Lucky Luciano and Meyer Lansky. It was sort of like they're taking the baton from the Nucky Thompsons and the Rothsteins and the Johnny Torrios. So I think the development of Al Capone in seasons 2 and 3 of Boardwalk, not to mention Bobby Cannavale coming in to play Gyp Rossetti in season 3, he was out of his mind. But no, to me, The Wire is number 1. Wire is 1, and Sopranos is 2. 3 could be I don't know what 3, 4, 5 are. I guess I should probably have done my homework on this, but I don't think Boardwalk's top 5. It's close.
Adam, do you have a list, or you don't have time to watch TV?
I have a list. I mean, I think I cheated a little, I guess. 2 of them aren't scripted series. But Sopranos is not on my list. Curb Your Enthusiasm is number 1.
Curbs are the top 5 for sure.
Not in my top 5, and I like it, but not my top 5. You've actually ruined Curb for most of Las Vegas.
I don't know.
Now the expectations are so goddamn high.
It lives up to them.
I just thought of another one. I'm sorry. I'm cutting you off again. I liked Veep. I thought Veep was good.
Veep was like number 7.
I never watched Veep, but I got to watch it.
You should. She's good. She's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. It's right. It's number 7 on my list. I think my list is like 32 deep. So number 2, God, this is tough. The Newsroom is number 2 for me. Just incredible show, and probably some bias from being in media, but I think it's incredibly written. The acting is amazing. Newsroom's 2. Number 3, Last Week Tonight for me, which is I think must watch television every single week.
But again, back to back left wing shows. Keep going.
Number 4, The Wire is number 4 on my list.
Yeah.
And number 5, a very actually right-wing show now, which you might accuse of being left-wing, is Real Time with Bill Maher.
Okay.
See, I wasn't going talk shows, though. I guess I should have thrown that into I guess semantics play out again because you didn't clarify. So
I went after that. Entourage was number 6 on mine. Actually had Veep at 7. Ballers was 8. And I love Ballers. That tells you how much I love HBO. Threw Arliss in there at number 9, which people don't even remember, and Sopranos at 10.
There was an Arliss. Weren't we talking about Arliss? I thought we were telling a story about maybe like 3 weeks ago. We were talking about a celebrity who got into sports radio and just sucked ass because he had no idea what it took.
I'm trying to remember who that was.
We weren't. Huh? Everyone got real silent. Okay.
Sounds like something Danny Bonaducci would do.
Gil the Thrill's got Game of Thrones, Sopranos, Breaking Bad. What? HBO.
Breaking Bad is not an HBO. I almost
HBO shows. Gil, you're blocked. You'll gone.
Love this. I almost killed a guy at Oasis over a Breaking Bad argument because he swore. I think he swore on my mother's grave that Breaking Bad was an HBO show. It was not. It was on AMC. But I almost killed the guy.
No one has Westworld.
Oh. Silicon Valley. I forgot Silicon Valley. Oh,
I haven't seen Westworld.
It's okay, Gil. All right.
It's okay, Gil. We're just messing with you.
I made a mistake early. I stumbled a couple of times tonight. We're all going to make mistakes.
What's your list, Cofield?
I have Newsroom in there, even though I mocked on Adam. I've got that 5. 4 is Game of Thrones. 3 is Sopranos, and I did start rewatching Sopranos, so I'm getting to the end of season 1. And it's going to sound cheesy, but there's a little regional tie there with the whole, New Jersey scenes all over the place. I have The Wire number 2. I thought The Wire was awesome. My favorite show of all time,
Sex and the City,
on HBO is say it again.
Sex and the City.
I know. I looked at that one now. It's actually Deadwood. I'm a big fan of westerns, and I thought Deadwood was like so raw. Pardon my French, everybody, but they drop more cunts per capita in that series we've ever seen on TV, F-bombs, but have you guys watched it before?
Yep. Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, it's great. I thought it was great. Yeah, see, Ray says, damn, forgot about Deadwood. I agree. I have to go back and watch Oz to have a real appreciation. The thing with Oz, when you watch it, afterwards, and it's a lot of these shows. When you watch Oz, you rewatch it, you're like, holy crap, that guy, this guy. I mean, the amount of people who appeared on that show who went on to great roles elsewhere is incredible.
Yeah, I also love that HBO, and I've got HBO. I don't subscribe to all the big, cable channels. Like I don't have Stars and Showtime or Cinemax or any of those. I think HBO has the most rewatchable shows. You can watch The Wire. I could watch it probably 3 or 4 times all the way through. And I love how their characters always sort of appear in all of their shows. Like I'm watching Boardwalk right now, and the guy who was in True Detective, another show we didn't bring up. True Detective is pretty good.
But exactly.
Season 1. Yeah, season 2 fucking sucked.
It's hard to watch.
Season 3, I couldn't even. I had PTSD from 2. I couldn't watch 3. But like the guy who was the Yellow King in season 1 is George Rebus in Boardwalk Empire, and then he's another character in this show. Like they use all the same guys.
That guy is awesome. And if I'm thinking of the right guy, he's also in Billions.
Yeah,
he's Bobby's, technically I guess his attorney, but his fixer really. He's a great actor.
I have not seen the comments, but I'm sure people are pointing this out. That me forgetting Silicon Valley is very distressing to me. But man, Eastbound and Down and Righteous Gemstones,
yeah,
and Vice Principals.
Yeah. Come on.
I had those as honorable mention.
Yeah. You know what? I didn't. But see, when I think HBO shows, I'm like blinded towards the drama and the heavy shows. Like Eastbound to me it should be in the top 5. The season when he goes, well, the first season was the best, but when he goes down to Mexico, he goes. The scene when he shows up. And Stevie is at his apartment, and he doesn't know Stevie's there. And he's like, "Hey, Kenny!" And he shoots him in the leg, and then throws him in the bathtub and pours a handle of whiskey in his shooting wound. And oh my God, I've never laughed so hard in my entire life. And Stevie's just in the shower, like, he's got bourbon in his wound. Oh, that's a great one. Yeah, La Flama Blanca.
Danny McBride is amazing.
He's awesome. I'll go to my softer side. I really did like Big Little Lies, solid old lady nudity, and man, women can be really mean. But it's good stuff. Good for Keith Urban. Good for Keith Urban with Nicole Kidman. My God, it's like 53. It's always going to happen, Sam. There's always a GILF mention in the show. Always a GILF mention.
I sent you a text before the show. You didn't respond to it, though.
What was it? The picture?
It was an old lady that had gotten in shape, and she was posting on Instagram how much better shape she's in. She's like 80.
Really?
Right up her alley.
How good of shape, though? How good of shape?
Oh, boy. Wow. I've seen her.
Okay.
Do I know her?
No, it's just some random. It's like an advertisement. Some 80-year-old lady.
Well, you know me. I know everybody, so I might actually know her.
She's got a hard ass.
Can you hold the phone up to the screen? Show.
No, don't you have that cool little thing where you can just switch like you put my tweet up earlier, just show an 80-year-old woman?
I can. If you guys stall for like a minute, I can email it to myself.
Well,
good enough.
I'll stall this way. Guess what? I have another trip planned out to Vegas, assuming everything is still open. And this trip is longer than my usual 36 or 48 hours.
Usually like 17 hours.
Yeah. I'll text you guys. I'll be like, hey, I'm coming into town on a Thursday. Oh, how long are you staying? Friday night.
Yep.
And Adam's like,
Didn't you one day say, hey, let's get together when I'm in town? I arrive at 5 a.m. and I leave at 11 p.m. Doesn't leave a lot of room.
Yeah, that's very true. And you're the hardest working man in Vegas, so it's hard to get you to come out in that short period of time. But that was when I came back from the Rose Bowl. I was in Pasadena, had to fly in for a meeting, and then I had to fly back out the next day. Yeah, that was like January 2nd or 3rd. But this will be a full weekend. It'll be Thursday to Sunday. So I hope to see you guys with your masks on. Maybe we'll go to Naked City or Office Bar, or I guess that's the same thing, but I'm in.
Well, I feel like last time, I can't remember if you were here or not. I think you were. I think that's why I went out, and I got mask shamed, and I didn't want to go out anymore.
I don't think that was me. I think it's a different guy.
Okay, fair enough.
He was definitely scarred by it, though. He's talked about it a lot.
Well, I walked in. Somebody, I can't remember who was visiting, and everybody was like, "We're getting together at our bar that we always get together at." I guess I could say Oasis, which is where we like to hang out. And I was like, okay, yeah. And I got off work like after a 20-hour UFC day where you have to quarantine all day. I was like, all right, I'll stop in and say hi. And I can't even remember who it was at this point. And like literally, I walked in and people were like, take the fucking mask off, you pussy. I'm like, all right, like we're trying to be smart here. Like enough of this.
That was not me, but I will,
Okay.
if you would like, I can do that for you when I see you next.
I'm sure you will.
Oh,
There you
okay.
go.
Yeah, look at that. That's not bad.
I mean, honestly, if you're underneath and she's riding you, I mean, she's probably.
What the hell? How do we take another step here?
Well, I mean, look at this. Look at this keister. I mean, she's gonna put a hurting on you.
She's in better shape. She's got bigger delts than I have, bigger tries too. I mean, those are massive.
Oh man.
Yeah, I was
Photoshop.
I was towing the line. Cofield, you just jumped right in the pool.
That's what he does.
What he does.
Do we think it's Photoshop though?
No, I don't think so.
I think you're being thrown off by the wonderful hairdo. The hair makes a big difference.
The
Well,
hair
and
makes her
the
look
arms. Yeah.
That's like the original Golden Girl right there.
Which one's the original one?
I don't know. Betty White, right?
Like the.
Well, I mean, I think Betty was kind of hoary, but obviously Blanche was the biggest whore.
A little before my time.
Is Golden Girls better than Sex in the City?
Yes.
Yes.
Way better. It's not even close.
No, that's a show. Next time we'll do best network shows. That's a show you need to rewatch. It's actually sneaky funny, and except for the blackface episode, they had to get rid of that one. It's
not blackface. It was a mud mask.
No, I have a very polarizing show, and I appreciate you giving me the ability to jump off the diving board and leave pretty soon. But I mean, I don't really care. I can hang out for a little bit longer. I have a polarizing TV show that I love, but a lot of people tell me that I'm a pussy, that I like it. So it's one of those shows that you either really like or you can't stand. One of my favorite shows when I was a kid was The Wonder Years.
It's great.
I thought, loved it.
Who doesn't like The Wonder Years?
A lot of people.
I don't believe that.
I liked it. Yeah, I liked it. I mean, Adam went next level. He got super creepy. Which savage were we trying to hunt down? Were you trying to hunt down on Twitter? I don't even know where that restaurant was. Were we covering fights?
It was in Houston.
I was in Houston.
No, Fred retweeted, liked, and responded to my tweet.
Yeah. So Adam's a Fred Savage stan.
I'm more of a Ben Savage stan. But
Ben had a better run.
Yeah, we just so happened to see. I don't know. It was, one show.
Yeah, but they were kids, so I think Ben was more popular.
Sure, because he was on more of a kids program.
Yeah.
So he had like that, Tiger Beat.
Yeah, Fred turned
crowd or whatever.
Fred turned his role in Wonder Years into being the guy with the mole in Austin Powers.
Right, but he's also like a pretty accomplished director.
Yeah, I know, but now you made me feel bad. Now, I'm just trying to bash Fred Savage for no reason, and here I am being checked.
I mean, I'm a massive Boy Meets World fan, but Wonder Years was clearly a better show.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were at a bar. We were at a bar in Houston, Steve, and there was a photo of Fred Savage for some reason. I don't even know why. And then I took. Well, you said you can't remember why it was. Then I took it.
Well, I knew we were at a bar. I just couldn't remember what city.
Yeah, I took a picture of it and tweeted it, and then Fred Savage was all over it. Very proud of himself for that photo.
All right, Sam. Good job, man. What do you what do you got to tell the audience? Give us a little promotional pop here. What's going on? You going to be on any shows coming up?
Yeah, well, I'm always on all over the place. A lot of times on NBC Sports in Chicago. They just unveiled the brand new studio there, which is pretty exciting. It's like bigger than my entire block, so that's pretty cool. But Chicken Dinner Boys, it's coming back at the end of August. That was the show that I started in Chicago in 2016 when we couldn't talk gambling on the radio in Chicago. My managers used to tell me, "Hey, we don't give the point spread. We don't talk about this." And that's going to come back in August. I don't know if it's going to be 3 days a week, 5 days a week, but it's going to be a daily audio video show. Streaming out of Chicago. So I'm excited about that. Just going to be me and my network of friends and foes and enemies and bookmakers and you guys, I guess. So looking forward to that. You know how it goes. I mean, you got to look at the whole spectrum. So yeah, Chicken Dinner will be back in August. You can follow that show at Chicken X Dinner on Twitter. I appreciate a follow, and we're going to talk gambling. And nobody's doing it daily in Chicago still to this date. So we're going to be the first.
Will, when you go on with Jastrzemski in New York, is it no holds barred now in terms of crapping on Francesa on WFAN, or is it too early?
I actually, I haven't been advised not to do it, but there was, I think Francesa, I was on hold with Jastrzemski 2 weeks ago, and the ad before I came back from break was Francesa talking about dick pills. And I wanted to say, I wanted to come back into the live show and go, wait, what's that number that Iron Mike just gave out there for the pill popper? And I decided against it because I feel like that guy, he could get you killed, like if you say the wrong thing about him. But yeah, he's gone, right? I saw that over the weekend.
He's gone on Friday.
Did you see his big take?
Hold on. Jesus Christ. So excited. I like the sports pope. I think he should be held in reverence. I'm tired of people ripping on him. And he's also because he has done now. He was also under this ridiculous spotlight where this jabroni in the New York area was like, he's pulling all his wrong predictions, which is bullshit. If any of us had to fall under those standards, we're wrong all the time. We're wrong all the time. And then, of course, on Friday, he goes on there. Go ahead, Adam, and makes like his final. It wasn't even a bold prediction. It was just what he said was right. What he said was right. But, of course, it turned out to be wrong.
His last show, he decided to take a stand that there's no way any team would give up 2 first-round picks for Jamal Adams.
God damn it. He was right. He was right. But he was wrong.
It was less than 24 hours later.
I will say this. He changed the game. Without him, there might not be Cofield and Company for that matter. I mean, Mike and the Mad Dog changed the game. And that Francesa used to be a TV producer, researcher for Uncle Brent. That's how he got his start at CBS. So he paved the way for so many shows across the country. But the problem is we're also locked in right now, and we can, give you the starting quarterbacks on most good NFL teams. And he doesn't even know the teams or the players or the coaches anymore. And I think that's when he becomes an easy target.
Yep. All right, Sam, great job, man. Let's get you on soon. Hopefully show number 2 is better than show number 1. I thought you did a great job tonight.
I think every show you've done is better than show number 1. I will see you guys in August. Don't forget. I'll text you. I'll give you a heads up.
All right, we'll break some bread.
Good seeing you, bro.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, yep.
There you go. Sammy P. Out of Chicago, was at VSiN, and now he's carving out his gambling niche in Chi-Town. Pretty good, right? Pretty good.
Oh yeah. Great.
I also wanted to get him out because if I go off the rails, as I often do, he seems to get uneasy, and he's got some things pending here, so we don't want to screw it up for him.
Yeah.
But I did have a random thought. I didn't hear you say it. Maybe you did. You did miss one of your favorite shows on HBO, I think, in your top 10. Which I'm
sure I know what you're going to say, but it fell off. It fell off after season 2. It couldn't make the top 5.
What's the show?
Girls.
Yeah.
It fell off dramatically.
Are you? What's the broad's name? Who's on there?
Lena Dunham.
Yeah. Are you anti Lena Dunham after she people tried to cancel her because they're like she had connections. She got into the biz easy. There you go. There's white privilege, and then she backpedaled. She's like, I did have white privilege. I'm sorry.
No, I mean I don't think you need to apologize for it. You just have to acknowledge it at some point. And that's what she did. You
know what? I'm going to show maturity and growth. I was going to objectify Lena Dunham. I'm not going to do it.
Look at you. Just check back in 40 years, and then you will.
No. That will not happen.
The
memory of her 20s will never go away.
Not going to happen. In your mind, too young to be doing nude scenes.
So we'll close out this way. And just so you know, guys, really, the plan on this was to do 65 or 70 minutes. So we love going on and on and on. But we'll probably do a little shorter moving forward. But we appreciate everyone being here. By the way, Sam, he didn't hang up because he was mad. I think he was kind of all right, it's gone for an hour. It's 1:30 in the morning Central Time.
I think he was nervous. He just checked out.
And I was creepy that night. I was talking about stabbing people. I went all Alex Jones, and it happens. I get aggressive.
Like you said, he's got some things in the works. He doesn't really want to be,
Yeah, he's got upside.
associated.
He's got upside to his career. This is mine. Just kind of, where's my hand? Down after that. Sam's a bloviator. Really? Did you break up the giant log of chuck that I gave you?
Yeah, it's all cooked and refrozen.
It's all cooked?
Yeah.
That was like 4 pounds of meat.
I thought it was like 10.
That's a good point. That was 10 pounds of meat.
It's all cooked and refrozen.
Really?
I don't have room in the freezer.
Did you do any of the cooking?
Of course, Steve. All of it. What do you think?
No. You did none of it?
I've eaten some good hamburgers.
Are you going to feed any to the dog?
Made some tacos.
Then I'm not going to mention Meat Up if you're feeding the fine meat from Meat Up to Baron.
Of course, I made some tacos and hamburger. It was a very quality hamburger.
Yeah, go to meetupvegas.com. You can see it on the bottom there. The code word is Cofield, and they've got these awesome packs of high quality meat, 20 pounds on up, and you got a lot of variety as well. I think the next pack that I buy, I will be getting. I'm intrigued by some lamb. I want some lamb, and I did try the chicken, and I'll tell you what though, I should have pulled it. I'll have to have the Vast Sound Crew at Lotus do it. Boy, Justin Watkins on Thursday just murdered me for over seasoning, like leaving a little bit of the charred seasoning on my last steak. I actually have a steak chilling, but I kind of lost my confidence. I don't know when I'm going to cook a steak again. He really beat me up.
He really did. It was brutal.
Plus John Von Tobel, someone, it's funny is someone joked on the show on Friday, and they were like, "Hey, did you run that picture by John?" And I never answered it. And I actually, no, I said it on Thursday, and actually I did. I had run it by JBT, and he gave the approval. And then I showed the picture here, and Justin's like, "That looks terrible." I'm like, I don't know. Maybe John was high. That happens sometimes. He wasn't an objective judge on that.
Occasionally.
All right. So we have, let's see. Here are the topics. We can do a couple of them, and then Adam's got to go. What is full Kimbrel? I don't get the joke.
Which is walking everyone? I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. I know I'm annoyed right now with Kimbrel. It's one of my fantasy closures. Like, I can't have these shitty outings in a 60-game season, Craig. Let's go.
It's not a great whip when you walk 4 and get through a third of an inning. It's Ohtani-like.
Possible topics the rest of the way. But like ASU Whiskers said earlier, I've been calm. So my goal is actually to stay calm. Maybe Adam's the one who's going to explode. I don't think I want to do Kyle Brandt from NFL Network saying that media members are rooting for the COVID over football. So I'm going to save that. We've got old LBC stories with that TBT picture from Mitch with Tyson.
Ooh.
We've got where was someone asking here? Oh, just LBC news in general. We did basically start a new radio station today. It'll start next Monday.
Oh yeah.
So if you have questions about that, that's kind of a big deal because we're now the rights holder on radio for the Las Vegas Raiders. There can only be one rights holder. This is not. I think maybe I'll find out there's a whole new deal because TV surprised me because the Raiders somehow have a partnership. Like every station is sort of the official, but only one's named the official. Then it's like an important partner, and then we're kind of in with the Raiders. Like all three of the 4 radio or TV stations have some kind of deal with them, and they're like, yeah, Raiders. We are carrying the play-by-play. And Comp is going to be running the games, our FM station. So we can talk about that. And this is I'm not going to do it. I saw Dana White talking to Brett Okamoto about the media.
Yeah, I watched it. Just the same stuff over and over again. We've talked about it before. I'm sure people have heard it. It ties in. It actually ties in with the Kyle Brandt stuff, though, right? I mean, if we wanted to talk about that, we can talk about both of them. But
here's the thing you're right with Kyle Brandt. So again, if people didn't see the tweet, Kyle Brandt from NFL Network said he believes that there are media members out there who actually are rooting for COVID, like really enjoy delivering the bad news, and they're like, take that, NFL. And there's a lot of things that Kyle Brandt did wrong in that. But the biggest thing is, like, dude, you work in the media, although a lot of people are questioning that now. They're like, hey, you're just a cheerleader, a paid cheerleader for the NFL. So now you just hurt the image of objectivity that, you put forth. But the other thing he did is it erodes away more at the confidence of what media people do. Because now he's a guy who's, a pretty big name, and people are like, see, told you. I'm like, thanks, Kyle. Thanks. Because guess what, dickhead? I said I was not going to get worked up, and this is why I didn't want to do this topic, so I'm out. No. You remember when, God damn it, these guys piss me off. The last time we talked about Kyle Brandt at length, if you don't know who he is, former Princeton guy, and now he's on NFL Network. He's on their morning show. You remember when D'Angelo Williams, former NFL player, came in and shit all over Kyle Brandt? Basically, he was like, who are you? Where'd you play football? He was like, I played at Princeton. Like, who cares? And I remember flipping out. I'm like, he played college football. Like, D'Angelo, do we want someone to come in who played at Ohio State and be like, fuck you, D'Angelo, you played at Memphis. Up yours. What do you know? And now I look back and I'm like, why was I defending Kyle Brandt? He just doesn't get it.
Yeah, but you can be objective about every different situation. Every situation is different. By the way, I don't like Kyle Brandt because of Princeton, because go Yale.
But by the way, we will be selling our final remote of 2020 for Gil. We'll have a cancel the season party. So yes, Kyle Brandt, were their jobs to go bye-bye. You're right. Because like 30% of us are really safe without the NFL. So yeah, good. You're right.
It's the most ridiculous, ignorant take of all time that any media person, I won't say any, because I'm sure there's one idiot out there or something else. But nobody that works in the media.
No. And he's not the only guy. Listen, Clay Travis has a bit. That's fine if he wants to go against the media. He does the same thing, with his Corona Bros, calling out the Corona Bros on the other side. There are other guys who do it. Well, you know what? I will bring it up tomorrow. I actually, if I remember, which I often forget, I will bring it up tomorrow. We're having on Tashawn Reed, who's new to the market with The Athletic, covers the Raiders, and it wasn't much of a back and forth, but Aaron Torres, who we like on Fox Sports Radio, is starting to pull this shit where he wants to be like, opposite side of the media guy, and it's like, bro, no. And like you said, there's different, and we were media guys. But when you erode away at the confidence of people, because the deal with Tashawn Reed and Torres, Reed was talking, it was something related to Florida State, and Tashawn Reed had one source, and Aaron Torres from Fox Sports is like, I would never go with a story without two sources. It's like, what are you talking about? What is your experience? And I'll bring it up tomorrow. Why are you going after an African-American media person? Because that seemed weird.
Well, I think white reporters and African-American reporters are both fair game if they do something wrong. You shouldn't hold back just because a person is a journalist of color.
All right. We'll talk about it tomorrow.
But I don't even think it's wrong. You can have the other opinion. You can have the opinion that, whatever you want to be of, hey, we're overreacting. We don't need to take all these precautions. We should just let them play and all these other things. You can have that opinion. The problem is when your take is all these media people need to stop rooting against it. Nobody is rooting against it. And again, maybe somebody is. Maybe there's somebody out there like, I don't want to see football this year. Fine. But people that are pointing out, hey, this needs to be done. You need to take this precaution. This safety, protocol needs to be in place. Those people are not rooting against the season happening. Those people are trying to point out what is safe, what should be done. Again, I used it earlier. If I report that a player has a torn ACL, I'm not rooting for the torn ligament. I'm not like, yeah, the ligament's broken. All right. You're reporting what happened. If you're reporting on something that's going on in the world and the virus that's happening, you're not rooting for the virus. That's what it was, not rooting against the season. You're rooting for the virus. If I point out that a lot of people have contracted it, that there's been a lot of positive tests, that a lot of people have died, that now we're having people, including an active Major League Baseball player whose heart is fucked up because of the virus. So those that say like, oh, the professional athletes will be fine, you're wrong. We don't know what the long-term ramifications are because a lot of doctors are saying that they are seeing organs just disintegrated of people that have COVID, and that they're going to have real problems in 15 to 20 years. Like, those things are out there. And to point that out is not rooting for the virus. It's hoping that it goes away and that we can take care of it, and we find treatments and we find vaccines and those sorts of things so that we can get back to normal life. And that in the meantime, we want people to wear masks so we can have football, and socially distance so we can have football. And by the way, like, you said we're going to go soon because I actually do have a story to finish. Because talking to a Raiders rookie tonight, he was like, we are doing everything that we can. We are being so over the top safe. Every single player is taking this so seriously because we want to play. And all you do is sit there all day and hope to God that every other team is doing the same thing because we want to play. But that's actual players, active players. But if a media person says that, they're rooting for the virus or they're rooting against the season happening, like, fuck you with that take. It's obnoxious. And he heard about it too. I mean, I don't think very many people agreed with him. It's just, I saw some, but it's stupid. It's just a stupid thing to say because they're so wrong. And it's the same kind of things that Dana White says.
Do you want me to punch up Dana White?
Yeah, sure.
You want to get into it? Okay.
I mean, it's the same thing.
I know, but I just, there's a couple things in here. This is
vindicated.
This is one. It's a really bad position for Brett Okamoto to be in again, and I'm not sure what he's supposed to do, but he's getting killed by other media members. And believe me, you and I have been in this position.
Well, he made a comment about it. He just didn't let it. He didn't just let it go. It could have been stronger, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I set this up. Can you actually remind people where you rank as an MMA?
I'm actually here.
So that's
I'm an NFL writer. Yeah. NBA down here, MLB here, and then MMA. I'm touching the ground. But I am an NFL writer, so I'm up here.
This is Brett with Dana White, who, may be at the point now where he doesn't need anyone else in the media except for ESPN. That's how well their business is going. But here he is basically saying, you know what, no one in the media can comment on the business of MMA.
Especially when you think back on that, those first Jacksonville cards when a lot of people were questioning whether or not you should have been doing it.
Yeah, but when you say a lot of people, you're talking about the media. And you know what I think of the media. They're all I will never, ever do anything with my business based off what the media thinks. Everything the media has ever said has been wrong.
Adam, everything you've ever said is wrong.
Well, I could comment on that, but I think it would be unfair because I do know what comes after this, and he does clarify that to some extent. And I think there actually is some validity to what he's saying a little bit, because what he's really saying here, and I'll let him explain it further, what he's really saying is you guys can have opinions on the fighters, the matchups, who's going to win, who's going to lose, if this person deserves a title shot. You can have opinions on all those things. You have no idea about what goes on behind the scenes and how to put, a promotion together, what the business side of things are, all these other things. And to some extent, he's right. Now, we do sometimes find out about those things, but he could help that by explaining it and being more open and honest about things and, answering questions. And there is a huge part. God, I wish I could talk about it. There's a huge part of that California, the card they announced in California that the UFC announced in April that never happened, that was not going to have very good protocols in place. There's a major story behind all that. And I think these are the kind of things he's talking about. So he announces a show in California. The protocols were not good. The safety was not there. It was just after everything else shut down, like 4 weeks after. And they were going to do a show. Or they announced a show. They were never going to do that show. Never. It wasn't the plan. And so all these media people out there are commenting on things like, hey, this show is a bad idea. They didn't have protocols in place. They were going to do this recklessly. They were, they were doing a show where there was not the proper medical facilities and structures in place. All of these things, right? Like on and on about how bad this idea was. But they were never actually going to do the show. So in the media's mind, like they're correct. They're right with what they're saying. But in Dana's mind, he knew what he was doing. He was announcing a show that was never going to happen for some strategic business purposes. And then everything worked out for him in the end. But the media is like, yeah, you were going to do this completely reckless and dangerous show. No, he wasn't. But you can understand why the media is pointing out that it was a ridiculous idea, and why he's saying the media knows nothing. It's those kind of things that are kind of frustrating. But he's right to a certain extent. Like, people don't know the full story.
All right, rest of the video. Apologize. Let's punch it back up again. Dana White, Brett Okamoto. Dana still frustrated with the media.
Since the day I bought this company with the Fertittas. They've been wrong with everything they've said. They know nothing about this business. All of the media, none of them know anything about this business. They think they do, and they like to act like they do. They don't. They know nothing. And I will never, run this business based off what anybody in the media says. When we sold for $4 billion, they overpaid, and right before we sold for $4 billion, the company was,
Wait, what are you saying?
He's saying like, oh, the media said Endeavor overpaid when they bought us for $4 billion. They did. Endeavor did overpay. They absolutely did. I think we've seen that on some level. Their debt ratio is out of control. So they did overpay. And by the way, look how much trouble they're in as a company. They did overpay. He was right.
What do you mean? Explain this, because again, not to be a smartass, but he's saying you and others don't really know the inside stuff. What do you mean they're in trouble? How do you know?
Endeavor. Look, read anything. Read anything about where their company is and how much trouble they're in.
The media? Huh? The media?
Well, all right, that's fair. Well, I mean, court filings too. I mean, it's not just the media. Like, Endeavor is in trouble, and yeah, it's a lot of it is brought on by coronavirus, but they leveraged all this debt, and then they ran into something like this that was unforeseen. Sure, but they absolutely overpaid for the UFC. There's no question about that. So you can say like, well, they were wrong. We got $4 billion. You did, and I think a lot of the media would have said there's no way you're getting $4 billion, and they did. So the media would have been wrong about that. But they're not wrong about the fact that Endeavor overpaid for the UFC. They just did.
It was going this way. And, I've been hearing all this crap from the media for 20 years. It means nothing to me. They literally, everything they say and everything they do has zero impact on this business.
Well, after that glowing compliment of myself, since I am a media member who covers the UFC, I'll move on to my next question. What
did Brett say?
He said, after that those glowing compliments about me as a media member, I'll move on.
All right.
Listen, you guys, to be fair, you guys are fans. You're passionate about the sport. You love it and everything else. And you guys can say, you can have your opinions on fights that are coming up and things like that, and certain fighters and all this stuff. The business of MMA, none of you know anything. And Brett, it's just a fact. You guys know nothing about this business, and nobody knows more about this business than I do. So we these guys can try to assume, argue, do all this stuff. They know nothing.
All right.
I mean, to a certain extent, there is a lot of the business that people don't know, and it's by design in a lot of cases. Like, to go one step beyond what I was saying before, like the pay issue, right? Like, the media has only so much information to work off of, and so when you disclose what purses are, and you understand how much money the UFC is making, you're like, this is insane. They're not paying them enough. And then you look at the court filings of the percentage of revenue that the athletes are getting.
Right.
It's comical. compared to other
So
sports.
a lack of expertise in a way is by design.
Sure.
If you don't have
a
all
lot
the
of
facts,
information.
of course he's going to know more because a lot of the information is withheld. I'm not going to scream and yell on this, but what I will say is that Dana feels very comfortable giving opinions on what we do. Just stop, okay? You've heard me say this before. So I've done this for 30 years. I know the way radio stations work. I have a decent knowledge of the way newspapers work. So if we're all going to go with the stick to whatever, stick to MMA.
And, he believes that the role of the media is to promote his company.
Mm-hmm.
He's always believed that, and he always will.
And
that kind of goes.
That if you're on the beat, just like Kyle Brandt was suggesting from NFL
Exactly.
Network, that if you're on the beat, there really shouldn't be a dissenting voice, and you should be about promoting the sport because he believes that helps you as a journalist. If you're a real journalist, you know that bosses require you to cover both sides of the story. In the end, if you're working for a real company that's covering MMA, you will lose your job if you're just on his side. What he's asking for will get you fired.
Yeah, 100%. Although
that's extreme. Things are changing,
yeah.
and yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, finish it up.
No, we are in an era where like those kind of rules that you're just referencing, yes, 15, 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, would absolutely apply. If you were doing the job the way that Dana White and Kyle Brandt think you're supposed to do the job, you would be fired immediately. It's not like that anymore. And there's a lot more of, hey, it's not about, being objective. It's not about producing the best stories and the best copy or finding out the information before everybody else. It's not really about those things. It's about, for whatever, drawing people to click on your, clickbait headlines or promoting yourself, going against the grain, saying, hey, Trump's bad for the country, but he's great for me as a businessman, and I can exploit that, like certain radio hosts said. I think it's a different world now. So on some level, like you're right that like the way that they want you to do the job, yeah, but he would say that's bad because it costs them some money.
Yeah, Brady says the media's coverage of weight cutting issues didn't move the weigh-ins from 4 p to 8 a.m. And I think that's a great example that if you just turned a blind eye to weight cutting issues and there were no changes, the fighters are still in more danger than they are now. So that was a good thing that the media did, and he absolutely did not at all want that covered.
No, of course not. And I think he would still say it was, it wasn't a good thing to do for people to cover that.
Yeah.
Because like they didn't really want to move to 8 a.m. Now they've accepted it. It's better now. And I think that actually the weigh-in program at 4 p.m. actually works better for them now after guys have already weighed in and they're rehydrated and they can have a little bit more energy when they're, promoting the fight at 4 p.m. on ESPN on a Friday afternoon. It helped them in the long run, but he didn't like it at the time. He didn't want to do it. And commissions ended up doing that because of media coverage. So it was a good thing, but that is what the media's role is supposed to be. Like the media's role is supposed to be to go to Jacksonville, where the UFC first came back, and to point out that all these protocols that they had in place were great, but they weren't being followed because the Florida Athletic Commission sucks. And that's probably not even fair either. They're just not, they're much more lenient than other commissions, I guess we could say. And that's probably why they went to Florida first. And so it's the media's job to be there and say, hey, like we did when I was there, pointing it out. That's why the media is supposed to be at something like that. Because, hey, the fighter's safety wasn't being looked after. And look what happened. All the positive tests that they had in Florida and all the very few that they've had since they left, it actually had to enforce their rules because the Nevada Commission and the government over in Abu Dhabi helped them a lot, but the Nevada Athletic Commission was much more stringent about those protocols, and it helped them cut down on the number of tests.
We'll close out here. You guys have any questions on what came down today? I'll tell you what came down in a second, but what came down today with Lotus and the sports stations and the fact that we're now the official carrier on radio of the Raider broadcast. We're going to have all these specialty Raider shows. We've got some lineup changes on ESPN Las Vegas. I hear some more are coming on Fox 1340, but I'm not sure if those are in place yet. But I do know that we've got a station now, Raider Nation Radio 920. That was formerly 920 The Game. That carried a lot of VSiN, some brokered shows, and most recently SB Nation. We've got now have a lineup of mostly Raiders shows. So it's Clay and Pritch in the morning. Clay and Pritch, Clay Baker, Mike Pritchard, 7 to 10 in the morning on our Raider station, Raider Nation Radio. It's broken up a little bit because we had, and I talked about this on this stream a bunch of times, ESPN National in the middle of the day because we tape delay. Levitard, we were going to have Levitard, Greenberg, and Kellerman to kind of decide what we were going to do. Those are each 2-hour shows. So what they've done is, and this may surprise people, but Greenberg is going over to the Raider station. So you will still get Levitard, and you'll get Kellerman, probably speaking out of turn here, but those will be the shows from, I guess it'll be 10 to 2. And so Raider Nation will be Clay and Pritch, Mike Greenberg, JT's going back to noon. He'll do noon to 2. We got a new guy, Scott, and Q, who are going to be doing 2 to 4. And then Adam's buddy, Vinny, who's done Boffo numbers on podcast on the newspaper site. Vinny, who's the number 1 writer covering the Raiders, he'll be doing 4 to 6 every day. So basically heavy Raider stuff and NFL from 7A to 6P on 920, which we've, again, rebranded Raider Nation Radio. Any questions about that? Any questions? Let's see. John says, does the dedicated channel mean it won't ruin the other stations with too much Raiders talk? I guess you guys can be the judge of that. We're going heavy football. I guess once we find out we're going to have football, and then if we don't, we'll have to make adjustments. But we're going heavier on football, so no. I mean, I think we'll probably be – I don't know what the show – I don't know what they're planning on. So, I mean, we can all say Raiders. I mean, we're still going to concentrate on the opposition. We're still going to concentrate on lots of teams around the NFL because we have lots of fans in Vegas who root for other teams other than the Raiders. But obviously with Adam on our show, we're going to be heavy on the Raiders because he's going to have, a ton of insight.
And, if you enjoy our, cynicism, then we'll probably still be cynical.
Jared is going with Tyler. So there's a new morning show on ESPN Las Vegas, our station in the mornings. It'll be Jared with Bischoff and Ed. So Tyler Bischoff, Ed Graney, and Jared will be the producer and update guy and part of the vast sound crew, Lotus sound crew. So he'll be doing all that. So yeah, Jared gets to move into the morning. And it's actually for Tyler and Jared, this is a really big deal because they're on a 1-hour show. You remember a couple of years ago, Tyler moved over from one of the other stations in town. So it was big for him just to get an hour with Lotus on ESPN. And now it's grown to 3 hours. So that'll be cool for him. And it's a new challenge for both of those guys because 3 hours is obviously different than an hour.
God, Jared booked me to come on that show today. I totally forgot about it. And went to sleep around 8:30 in the morning and got a phone call at 10:30. I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot. Got to do this show. Well, though.
So, Adam, I always wanted to ask you, how do you actually decide who's on beats at the newspaper? It seems kind of random, and sometimes it seems like people are mismatched with their beat. How's that get decided?
Well, I mean, we have bosses, obviously. We have a group of 3 bosses in the sports department.
Right.
And I don't know, they kind of decide who fits where. Like the UFC one was a really weird, how I got on that. I mean, I was doing a whole bunch of different stuff at the paper and have done a bunch of stuff throughout the years. But we had an MMA and boxing writer in Kevin Ioli, who's now at Yahoo, and he left the RJ for Yahoo. And there was a email that went out that asked if anybody had ever seen an MMA fight.
Yeah. And
I believe I was the only one that had. So I started covering it.
But I wonder now, and it's one of my key gripes. I wonder now why this is not Dana White. It's not because I like UFC and I think it's an important sport. Believe me, I worked for a long time on the beat and I still like it a lot. But I always, like in this case, I wonder why. I don't know. I think VGK and clearly the Raiders are more important than, say, MMA. So can't someone else do MMA? And Brady, you noticed that I flipped it because I wanted to punch up Dave Shane's question. Always wondered, how are those on-air partnerships decided? Is there an actual formula or a dartboard? So Dave, I've actually thought about the paper and who has the beats in the same way. So, right? I mean, the easiest way to answer it is sometimes they don't always make sense. Sometimes time slots don't always make sense. There's also politics. There's also loyalties. There's also a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes at radio stations in terms of who gets spots and who doesn't. Do businesses actually want you to be the voice of their business? Do you connect with your listeners? Do you ever go out and do remotes? Are you okay when you're at remotes with people? There are certain, I think a lot of people look at radio shows and they're like, oh, that guy's not as good as that guy. Well, that's only what you hear. Maybe the person is a complete putz and difficult to deal with. Maybe they're drama all the time behind the scenes, and that's why they're not moving up. And again, the money thing now, just like with you guys, Adam, right? Just like with the way the newspaper business is changing, editorial doesn't have total control. The business office comes over that line. There's that line. What are you doing over here? That's part of it, right? And some people in radio are not as great with clients as others. That weighs into decisions. So there's a lot of stuff. Was that politically correct enough? And I didn't take your question to any sort of offense. I think Tyler and Ed have a chance to be a good show. There's going to be a learning curve because they're different personalities. But they're both very good. But we'll see how it goes. And Jared, I'm telling you, I like Jared. Adam likes Jared even more, if that's possible. Jared is a rising star. I'm telling you, he's a brilliant kid. And the most important thing, right? And this is sometimes like, I know this happens in the newspaper industry. Like I worked in newspapers for like 4 years. I can't write. And eventually I was like, I need to do what I'm supposed to do. But like, I was never going to move up. So that decision, I was a part-timer, right? That decision was based on my lack of skill, right? And I was probably a loudmouth and a curmudgeon. The biggest thing with Jared, that guy freaking loves radio.
Yeah.
And you can't teach that. And even more important, most people behind the scenes, they get in behind the scenes to do what, Adam? Eventually be on the air.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't think Jared, like he's a personality. He can be the third wheel, but I don't think Jared has any aspirations of being an on-air guy. So that's why he's going to be an awesome producer. It's going to be difficult. 3-hour show and booking totally different guests than Bischoff was. It's going to be difficult, but I'm telling you that is as big a deal to that morning show as moving Tyler there is. So yeah, it'll be Tyler and Ed, and Tyler's not taking over.
And I would say, along those lines of not wanting to be an on-air guy, he understands that you can have your voice heard, that you can be a part of the show without being on the show. And like through the years, and I'm not talking, I know Ari's here, I'm not talking about Ari. The biggest problems that you have sometimes is like somebody's like, yeah, I want to be a producer, because they really just want to get a job at the station because they just want to be on the air, and they don't understand it. Like a guy like our friend John Von Tobel, who came in, who I think wanted to be on the air and wanted that to be part of his career, but he really was like, he was a producer. I'm going to learn this job. I'm going to crush it. And that led to, his ability to do so many other things.
Yeah, I don't think this is the case that Tyler's going with Ed because Clay or Pritch would kill him. No. Clay and Pritch are pretty laid back.
No, it's more practical. Like Clay can do it himself.
Yeah, I don't think you have to worry about ESPN Las Vegas becoming WIP, where the Raiders are the only team in the league. I'm not passing any judgment because I have no idea what they're going to do. The Raider station is going to be a Raider friendly station. Doesn't mean they're not going to be objective and criticize them, but that's why we're starting a Raider Nation radio. I'll admit I'm not. Listen, when I agreed to work for Learfield and cover UNLV, like the part of me is like, all right, I'm going to try to be a lot more understanding of UNLV athletics. I'm going to learn, but I'm not going to sit here and just slaughter them with not expecting any repercussions. Yeah, you give up a little bit of that when you're working for a station that's Raider Nation Radio or Steve Cofield, sideline reporter with Learfield covering UNLV. Although I will say, I think on Cofield and Company that I think we covered UNLV fairly. I mean, Could we have gone harder in on Sanchez? I suppose, but I didn't think Tony Sanchez was a terrible, completely terrible coach. I thought he had weaknesses, And he was in a situation where, hey, Desiree wants her own person. Desiree has a certain person that she matches up with, and that's Marcus Arroyo, and it wasn't Sanchez.
Yeah, and I think I also am annoyed in a lot of markets where like the main sports station, as my brother was just pointing out, is, I talked about this before. Like I went to Detroit, whatever it was, 10 years ago now, and I love the Tigers. I enjoy watching them, and I turned on the station the day after a Tigers game, and it was like a 3-hour breakdown of the game the night before. I was like, I this is not what I want to hear. Same thing with WIP in Philadelphia, but the beauty that we have is that we can have both. Where like if you are somebody that loves the Raiders and wants to hear about the Raiders 24 hours a day, you can do that, and then flip over to us, and it's not always you're going to have the Raiders talk, but it's not going to be all Raiders all the time, which I think gives us a lot of flexibility to to provide people with both the best of both worlds.
Correct. Raiders 920, UNLV 1100. Also 1100 still will have some of the national stuff that we've always carried. I think. I don't know. There's things change. So traditionally we've carried the NCAA tournament, stuff like the Super Bowl, Major League Baseball playoffs. And again, Clay is now on with Pritch on 920 The Game on Raider Nation Radio. Hill and the Homies is a good idea, but I would have to be at this time slot. So if they want to start a 10:30 at night show or 11 o'clock at night show, but Adam already said he's got it right, so I don't even know that Hill and the Homies could commit to 5 days a week.
It'll be tough.
Drew's from Duluth. Hardcore sports talk sucks ass. Yep, I know. K-Fan's ridiculous. Their ratings are through the roof, and I read a feature about 2 weeks ago where all the guys there are pretty much behind the mission of the station is sports is a vehicle to get to the talk that we want to get to, and sometimes it's sports, sometimes it's not. But those guys, they are like freaking idols with the kind of numbers they pull in and sales and all that. So, and the Raiders will be going. It's a cleaner signal on comp. Like if you listen to the VGK games, the difference between 1340 and 98.9 FM is freaking ridiculous. That is one of the 98.9 is one of the best, if you can get it, is one of the best FM signals I've ever heard games on. Like, I swear to God, I feel like Dan Duva is like on the ice.
Yeah.
It is so crisp and clear. But yeah, they're going to go on a more clear, bigger signal with comp, and that's the deal on that one. What happened? Oh no.
Sorry.
What was it? A bad beat?
The top 100 list of the NFL.
Yeah.
Just come on, man. The players.
Yeah.
They should not let the players.
We'll have to get to it. We'll have to get to it tomorrow because there's been some crazy stuff so far.
They should not let the players vote on these things. First of all, like 90% of it should probably be offensive linemen and defensive linemen, and it's not because even the players don't know. But Todd Gurley at 51 that's just preposterous.
Too high, too low.
Way too high. Come on, man.
Yeah.
The guy he's got an arthritic knee. He can't even run.
He's gonna have a big bounce back here.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Tyson LBC story we'll get to later in the week. I promise.
That's our secret. We're just gonna keep promoting it every day.
It's an old story. It's evergreen. So we could probably maybe we'll do it on Thursday. Maybe it'll be a legal topic because the story was that Paul and Mitch and Seat were on the verge of getting fired after doing a Tyson interview. So maybe we'll talk about workers' rights with Justin during our legal podcast.
Because of something he said, not that they said.
They put forth an action that pissed people off, but that's it.
Yeah, they laughed. Sorry. The teaser.
Yeah. All right, everybody. We'll have more details on all the new lineup changes. And, I know ESPN National is going live on August 17th with their new lineup, so we'll officially know what is going to be in between us and the new press box. And actually, the new press box starts up next week. So Bischoff, Jared, and Ed. And I'm looking forward to Jared and the laugh track in the background. I think it's a big thing for morning shows. So
I enjoy it. Very
good. All right, guys. We appreciate it. I was going to say great job, but you watched. And there were good comments, though. And yes, Pro Martini Maker. Yep, night. And this is crazy. This is a good way to close. Can't believe Vegas has Major league sports. Don't say pro sports. Some organizations get it. Major league sports. It's insane. We'll probably talk about this more, but my God, when I was doing radio back here from freaking 96 to probably up until 2010, if you told me 10 years later that we'd have an NFL team on the ground opening training camp tomorrow, I'd be like, out of here. What are you, nuts? It's never going to happen. Gordell and the NFL and the owners,